The Kotzuki Network presents
Rise Up Single Mom. Hey moms, and welcome to the Rise Up Single Mom podcast. We have another stunning, exciting episode for you on today, and I'm so excited to have another brand new smoking hot guest, Miss Tamika Anderson. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thanks for being here. And moms, you know how we kick off every single episode with a positive affirmation. So go ahead, gear up, sit up straight, and say it with me loud and proud. I will create amazing memories. Yes. Say it one more time. I will create amazing memories. Yes. So this episode, moms, is all about single mom travel. Yeah, you heard me. I know from my experience, when I became a single mom, my daughter was just a little over 1, and the thought of travel just gave me a headache, okay? Before even packing, one piece of stitch of clothes, my mother would say, it just gave me anxiety, the thought of traveling with a child by myself, the airport, the rental car, you have your diaper bag, you have a million things, snacks. What did I forget? I got to go to the bathroom. So all of those things that give us angst about travel. Today, Miss Tamika Anderson is going to help us, say it's not that bad. She actually does an amazing job traveling. She started a website and a Facebook group. So we're going to get into that a bit. So first, Tamika, tell us about your journey into becoming a single mom.
So I am a career journalist. Lived in New York City for more than 15 years, writing and editing and producing for major networks, kind of living the Black Carrie Bradshaw life, if you will, until my mid to late 30s when I got pregnant and was like, hey, I think maybe I want to do a shift. Freelance life is wonderful. It's also ups and downs. And I wanted to provide something that was more consistent and stable for my son. My parents are from the Washington, D.C. area. Well, they're not really. Okay. I'm an Army brat. I moved all around the country and overseas. Okay. And so I decided to come on home to where they are in the D.C. area, and as such, work for the federal government as well as operate some businesses here. And I just wanted to raise my son in an area where he'd be close to his family, as well as I had opportunities to give him from every standpoint. So that's my journey in a nutshell.
Awesome. And you have one child. You mentioned the son. Is that your only child?
Yep. 8-year-old son. His name is Solomon.
Oh, how nice. Solomon. Okay. And how long have you been a single mom?
So the whole 8 years that I have had him, I've been a single parent. Yeah. Okay. He was basically, my reason and is my reason for, just carving out this space for single parent travel. I actually founded my Facebook group when I was 5 months pregnant with him, the intention being to provide some of the same opportunities for travel that my parents provided me when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. My dad was in the U.S. military, like a lot of us are in terms of Black folk, and that was their first taste of international travel. And so it was wonderful because we lived in Germany. I got to travel to Morocco and Turkey and all these other places. And I knew I wanted to be able to give my own son the global perspective that I got as a kid. But I also knew I was going to be doing that on one budget as a single parent. So I founded this Facebook group, and the intent was just to find other people like myself, who wanted to provide their kids with the experience of travel. And the group started off 4 and 5 people, and now it's more than 9,000 people based everywhere from Philadelphia to the Philippines. And so as a result, it's, just created so many opportunities. I was featured on Good Morning America. I've been a Facebook influencer, as well as had trips now, 4 trips that I've taken the fourth one will be coming up with groups of single parents to Costa Rica next year, because
Okay,
parents
I
started
love that.
asking, hey, can we do meetups? Can we have trips? And so we've done all of that.
Yes, how amazing is that? Wow. So now your Facebook group has grown to over 9,000 followers, right?
Yes.
Participants that are in that group. That's amazing. So, by having that group, talk to us a bit about what are some of the frequent questions or conversations or the dialogue that gets really interest in the group?
Absolutely. Well, so I love the fact that during this season of quarantine and COVID, we've really come
Mhm.
together to not just figure out how to make travel happen, but how to support each other as a community. I mean, I know you and your viewers and listeners know as well as I do, being a single parent sometimes feels very isolating. And so the more that you can lean on each other for suggestions, advice, support, not just around travel, but all things, that's a win. And so, from a standpoint of what's most interesting, of course, this whole conversation about to travel or not to travel with kids during COVID is big.
Yes.
Now that kids are becoming vaccinated,
Hmm.
so there's conversations about that, what that looks like. We have had forums and discussions about um, digital learning, basically learning from home when we were in the height of that, what that looks like. We've had educators
Yes.
that were single parents come in and give their best practices to parents who are maybe teaching their kids at home for the first time. There's so many different topics. We have parents who live abroad with their kids. And talk to us about, how they maybe purchase property abroad, what it looked like for them to exit the U.S. and move someplace else and find community, find jobs. It really truly is a global community in every sense of the word. And
Mhm.
so, as such, the conversations are just as global.
Wow, I absolutely love that. Wow, that's great. So, talk to us a bit about some of your best and favorite tips when it comes to traveling as a single mom.
Yeah, it's so funny. I related and I kind of chuckled to the examples that you gave at the top of this broadcast about some of the reasons why we don't travel as single parents, especially when our kids are young. There's like all
Yes.
the complications of how am I going to carry two suitcases, a
Hmm.
toddler, a stroller,
Hmm.
car seat, worry about all the things that I need to do, navigate the tiny bathrooms on the airplanes,
Right.
trying to change diapers, like, or finding the food and milk and supplies that our kids
Hmm.
need when we're abroad. It's not the same as home. Are they going to eat? What happens if they're sick or we're sick?
Yes.
What can we do? Health insurance. There's so many different things, but I'm here to tell you that I've navigated these things successfully, so many of them, as have the
Yes.
people in the group. One of the ways in which we have definitely found that we can support each other in community is to travel together. I tell this story all the time. I was kind of afraid, and just kind of like suffering from, like, I don't know how I'm going to do this syndrome, but I really wanted to travel with my son when he was 3 years old.
Uh-huh.
And I actually found a lady that was in my own group, who just so happened to be heading to Dubai with her 3-year-old. And it happens to be that she's an event planner, and she's like, I've got all these ideas. Does anyone want to go? She happened to be in the DC area also. So I said, yeah.
You're like,
And we
heck
decided
yeah.
to have a couple of meetups and let our kids introduce our children to one another. We devised a strategy and a plan. We rented a car. We decided who's going to be doing this, who's going to drive, who's going to watch the kids. We split bills down the middle when it came to hotels.
Hmm.
We were able to find good discounts for things like activities for our children to do abroad. And it was just kind of like traveling with a spouse, except for it was another parent. And so that was a financial win, that was a logistical win, and it was a win from the standpoint of managing your nerves because you felt like you had someone else and that you did have somebody else who
Right.
had your back. And that's definitely one of the suggestions that I give parents who are traveling with small ones or also just traveling with their kids for the first time. It's like you don't necessarily have to do it on your own. And then from a cost perspective, it's a lot of times advantageous not to. So that's definitely one of the
Right.
things.
Man, I never even considered traveling with another buddy that was, a single mom and had a child. That's just, I mean, it sounds simple, but it's ingenious because you do have that support in more than one way. I mean, even the moral support aspect of it. Some people that aren't single moms, they may not think, oh, you just get in a car or you just get in a plane. But with so many impatient people in the world today that huff and puff if you're walking too slow, or got to grab something else to get on the escalator or the elevator. And that, I mean, for me, let me just talk about Clarissa for a moment. That just sent me to another place because I'm like, I'm already struggling with this child by myself, trying to take a vacation to show her the world. And here you are huffing and puffing. You know what?
Yeah. Yeah. I've definitely had moments where it's not easy. Yeah. My son's first big trip was the first trip I took him on was to Dominican Republic when he was just under 2. And I was fortunate that it was a work trip. So I was surrounded by colleagues who would help me with the stroller or help me hold on to him while I was doing things. So that was helpful. But the next trip, the one that I mentioned, it was to Dubai. And, we lost the stroller as soon as we got there. So I remember holding my son because my friend and I were on different flights and trying to drag our luggage. He's exhausted. Yeah. It's in the middle of the night. We're in the airport in Saudi Arabia. I had to figure that out. I was fortunate. I believe in angels. And one of the women that I had struck up a conversation with in the lounge on the way to that airport helped me. But, it's just like you just have to have faith that some people will be kind and they will be patient with you and you will find a way. So that's how that worked out.
Cool. And then you just mentioned international travel. And I have to say, most single moms or some single moms are probably thinking, I just want to go to a domestic place first. So let's talk about domestically. What are some great spots, locations in terms of moms that want to travel domestically? Do you have any favorites?
Absolutely. So New York City is like one of the best places that I can think of to get the bang for your buck in terms of not only places that grown-ups can really appreciate and like, but kids as well. I mean, every year, this time of year, my son always wants to go see the Christmas tree at Rockefeller Center and to take in all the lights. And, it's Thanksgiving season. So, of course, there's the Macy's Day Parade. So in the fall, in the winter, you're automatically looking at some of the places that don't cost anything and are very exciting. They maybe have more crowds than sometimes we're comfortable with as parents, but there's also ways to kind of get around that. For instance, for New Year's Eve, and it might be a little bit more expensive, but that's when you find single parent buddies to rent like a hotel in Times Square so you can show your kids the ball drop if you decide to keep them up that late. Yeah. There might be repercussions later, but these are the kind of things, or Central Park or the zoo, the Bronx Zoo. My son and I, we make trips several times a year to New York for that, for those things. And then there's also, we spent Thanksgiving 2 years ago at Disney World. We had our Thanksgiving meal right there at the park with Mickey and Minnie and Goofy, and I've never seen my son more happy. So I think there's most definitely good places to start from a domestic standpoint where you can kind of get a taste of what it might be like if you ever choose to travel further.
Awesome. Okay, well, we're going to take a quick pause because I want to get into as well some of the hot places and destinations internationally as well that some moms may not have considered just yet. So moms, you are listening to the Rise Up Single Mom podcast with your host, Clarissa Joy. We'll be right back.
Blues in the Basement.
Hello.
And the lyrics of the blues songs, like Bobby Rush, can sometimes be a little risque. We just got the music on.
Blues.
Instrumentals.
Loving it.
I don't care if you're young or old.
Blues in the Basement.
Get together, let the good time roll.
Part of the Kazukian Network.
Welcome back, moms. You are listening to the Rise Up Single Mom podcast with your host, Clarissa Joy. We are empowered by the Kazukian Network, and today we are talking to Miss Tamika Anderson. She has provided some amazing tips in our first segment. If you're just joining, and now we're going to go a little bit further into the discussion. This is all about traveling as a single mom. Tamika has created a website and Facebook group called Single Parents Who Travel. You can reach the website at singleparentswhotravel.com. And she is just loaded, guys, with tips that I'm sitting here thinking, why didn't I ever think of that? So, in the last segment, we talked a bit about some of those hot destinations domestically. So share with us, what are some thoughts or what are some destinations that moms can start thinking about who want to venture out globally or internationally with their children?
Sure. Well, the Caribbean is a good place to start because if you're on the East Coast, for instance, it's only a couple hours long flight. If you're nervous about, traveling with your children for the first time and not knowing how they'll fly, it's a good sort of gauge, if you will. You can get someplace international, but it's not going to take you a ton of time. I might wait for the longer flights like the one I mentioned before. It was like 14 hours. That's a lot. That's a lot. Yep. So I also really recommend like a cruise your first time out. I certainly do understand and respect people's feelings about cruises during right now in terms of COVID. However, a cruise gives an opportunity for you to sample different islands together, also to enjoy time away from your child if you so choose, because some cruises have kids clubs, which are essentially vacation babysitter clubs, so that they can have fun with their peers and you can go and get a spa treatment. One of the things that I definitely encourage moms to do is, whenever possible, not make it just a trip, make it a vacation. And how to make it a vacation is to give you some time for yourself to breathe, as well as your child to have some time to have friends time and just, to see what they can see. So resorts are also a good option for that. Cruises and resorts. A lot of the trips that we do at Single Parents Who Travel involve that. And we always make sure that we have options for like a travel nanny or a kids club, because, kids can really be tired during vacation time, and then you don't have to necessarily worry about missing everything, because they're completely content and happy where they're at as well. So
what I really love about the cruises and the resorts is they have things that are baked into the cost you've already paid. So I know some moms are considering, well, to do a, excursion or something outside of, just the trip itself, that's going to be another expense. So on the cruise and at the resorts, they have a full daily schedule. I absolutely love that.
That's for sure. And then I choose resorts like Nickelodeon Resort, because they've got water slides. They've got baked-in entertainment, like evening entertainment that's family friendly. You can literally not have to pay a dime more than what you've already paid, to your point. And your kids will be entertained every single day with new things to do. So I definitely recommend the definitely family friendly resorts. And the brands, some of them very well already. So you can pretty much guarantee that your kids are going to have a blast.
Great. So the other question I know moms are probably thinking about, how can I afford this, this trip, this vacation? What hacks do you have to share with moms?
Absolutely. So we talked about one earlier, which is basically splitting the cost of vacation down the middle with another mom or several moms. That is super helpful in terms of being able to think about how you can afford a trip ongoingly. And as opposed to sometimes, we get stuck not only being able to basically have a trip once in a while. But this is how you can have trips, maybe multiple trips within a couple of years. Another thing is to pay as you go. So if you're going to, sign up for a trip, you can maybe work with a travel agent to put down a deposit and then maybe pay every month toward that trip, so that you're not feeling it per se, because $100 here, $100 there, before you know it, the vacation's booked and is fully paid off. So that's another hack. And then also just looking for the time of year to get the best deals, or the brands that have things like two parents or two adults, a child travels for free. Those are consistent deals that I've found on some of the cruise ships as well as resorts that incentivize parents as well, because they know that they're not going to be paying full price for their child, or they're going to be being able to pay a lot less.
Okay, those are all great hacks. Are there travel agencies that you would recommend, or how would a mom go about selecting a travel agency?
Sure. So the awesome thing is that reviews will tell you so much about whether or not, people specialize in family travel, and whether or not they are reliable and consistent. And, I always look for the moms and dads who weigh in on reviews as it relates to travel agents and everywhere else. I also only work with travel agents who specialize with families, because I feel like they are more sensitive to the needs of single parent families. Like I said before, like not everyone is comfortable leaving their child with a nanny abroad, for instance, that's not vetted or doesn't come through another organization. So I like to work with travel agents who can give me a sense of reassurance that they've worked with these companies before, that, there are, good options that I can use, and that I'm going to feel comfortable with when I get there. So that's definitely part of it. But yeah, there's a company that I use called 5 Star Global, and they're wonderful, super receptive, and they do a lot of the legwork for me, which I think is invaluable as a single parent. Like, do you really want to have to rack your brain to figure out every single detail, or do you want to give it to an expert who knows, who's been there, who has insights, who has contacts on the ground, so that you can have a super enjoyable time? You can just show up.
And working with the travel agent, is that pricey? Are they charging, based on the total cost of the trip? Is it, percentage based? What should moms expect in terms of cost?
I like to work with travel agents who get commissioned through the resorts or the cruise lines, and you're not coming out of pocket that much for them. Sometimes if you're booking like a larger group, like you're booking a trip for your family, a larger family, or something that is beyond maybe just 2 or 3 of you, they may charge you like a flat fee to do the sort of the creation of the itinerary and kind of put everything together for you. But I like to work with travel agents who have a reasonable cost and who aren't exorbitant. And so I have found that the ones who get most of their money through the destinations themselves are the ones that typically work the best for me. That way I'm not paying a whole lot of money on top of the trip itself.
Okay, wow. Yeah. These are questions that moms are probably saying, well, where do I go to find the information? So I just want to remind moms that I'm sure there are a million more ideas and hacks and tips and tricks that can be found on the Facebook group, Single Parents Who Travel. So let me ask you this question, Tamika. When it comes to you selecting your next destination, what is your thought process? Where do you start?
Sure. Number one, safety is the number one thing that I think about when it comes to inviting families who are trusting me to make a good choice in terms of location. And so I take that into account. Right now, I definitely follow the news in terms of cases of COVID, where we are going, so that we feel comfortable when we get there. And then the other piece of it is, where do parents want to go? I put together a poll, and I asked them, hey, if you could just, rub your magic wand or your magic ball and just poof, end up someplace that you always wanted to go, where would you like to go? And so that's how we decided upon Costa Rica. It's just a great place because, number one, it's chock full of learning opportunities for our kids. We're taking them to a jungle space where they can learn about animals and trees. They can learn about plants. They can experience going to a volcano. They can experience so many things on and off the resort. So we look for opportunities for our kids, not just to experience travel for travel's sake, but also things that are educational and fun for them. So that's another lens by which I choose trips.
Awesome. So I want to turn the perspective quickly to the child, because we're thinking about, and we've discussed so far, the parent's thought process. So since your son Solomon has been on, some amazing trips, by the way it sounds, what would you say, is his perspective? Has he shared any nuggets with you? Anything surprised you that he said after particular trips?
The trip that I took him to Dubai on, I remember maybe a couple weeks after returning, and we had traveled through Saudi Arabia to get there. And I remember taking him to a farm, as is our annual fall tradition as a family, and him getting on a toy airplane on the farm, on the playground. And he said, "Mom, hop on the back of the plane with me." And so he pretended he was the pilot. And I said, "Solomon, where are we going?" He said, "We're going to Saudi Arabia." And that made such an impression on me, because I know what's happening in his brain. Yes. It's exactly what I intended, which is you see yourself as a global citizen. You don't see the restrictions of being here or anywhere. You see yourself everywhere, which is exactly what I wanted to be able to provide him in terms of perspective, and other people's children as well. What gives me the most joy is Solomon's, just his comments. "I love being here," or "I just love seeing," like he got to hold, we just came back 2 weeks ago from a trip to Mexico City, and I chose Mexico City for him because he really loved the movie Coco. And so they were celebrating Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead. And so he got a chance to participate in the parade. He got a chance to speak some Spanish, which he's been working on. That's another thing. It's cultural fluency, an opportunity to practice. We spent some time then in Honduras on that same trip, and he got a chance to go ziplining. And Solomon has been to as many countries as he is old. And he just really loves being able to sort of understand how cultures are different, food's different, the way things look are different, the way people present themselves are different. Mm-hmm. So he's just a sponge. And so just the questions he asked me to help me know that he's getting it is really the confirmation that I've needed, that this is a good idea for him and for other kids.
Yes. Wow. Tamika, I just love everything you have shared with us in this episode. And I want to say hats off to you for being an amazing superstar mom to Mr. Solomon. So you're doing an amazing job. Keep up the good work. And I also want to tell you that by sharing what you've given us today, there are moms I know, I just believe in my heart, that have never probably even considered travel with with their children. And now they will, as a result of how, you've made this seem like something that we can really take on. We can really do this. So I appreciate you sharing so transparently about your experiences, your hot destinations and locations, the hacks for us to stay on budget and save $1. And then I love that one statement that you made: don't just take a trip, but make it a vacation. I want moms to hang on to that piece. So as we started off the episode, moms, don't forget our affirmation: I will create amazing memories, whether it's domestic, whether it's international. Let's continue to make amazing memories that are priceless for our children, no matter the cost, so that they can hold on to these lasting memories for their entire lives. So I'm excited. Thanks so much for being a guest on the show today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Moms, you've been listening to the Rise Up Single Mom podcast with your host, Clarissa Joy. We are empowered by the Kazukian Network, and don't forget to find us on Instagram and Facebook by searching Rise Up Single Mom.
Rise Up Single Mom. Directed, produced, and distributed by Kazukian.